Hello and welcome to the Physiology of Endurance Running podcast. I'm Owain. I'm joined by Dan. How's it going, Dan?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, excited to race Podium 5K. Is it Podium 5K?
It's
Sports Shoes 5K?
Home
Home Nations
Nations, isn't
5K, whatever it's called now,
it?
on the weekend, which I guess will have happened by the time this comes
Yeah,
out. But yeah, I guess with that caveat, yeah, the minute I'm really looking forward to it and feeling good and ready to go. If I run a really bad time, I wasn't feeling ready and I've been feeling rubbish all week. So I'm
terrible
just playing it
conditions.
both
That'll be
ways.
it.
Yeah, yeah. But no, looking forward to it. I'm feeling, yeah, quietly confident.
Yeah, yeah. No, you've done some good sessions this week, I think. So
Yeah, pretty happy. I had a bit of a blip the week before, but yeah, I feel like yeah, what did I do? 10 by K in 9 by K in like 3 minutes to 3:02, like threshold. Uh Felt pretty comfortable. Then a bit longer recovery. The K hard hit 2:48, which I was pretty happy with. It's the fastest K I've run since about a year ago, I reckon. Probably doing the race
podium
last year.
last year.
Yep. Yeah. So no, feeling good. Yeah, feeling pretty. Feel like my endurance is in a good place. Speed's in a good place for me. So hope that comes together and run sub 14 minutes on Saturday.
Yeah, watch out anyone that's nearby you in the last K.
What? I'm
I'll
not going to be out
be.
kicking anybody. I've never out kicked anyone in my life.
This could be the race.
Maybe,
Now you've been doing your
maybe.
plyos.
I've been doing my plyos and did run 29.1 for 200 the other day. Literally fastest 200 I've probably run in about 5 or 6 years, I reckon.
Yeah.
But
Have you decided on shoes you're gonna wear?
oh no, I haven't. I need your help with this. You're better at the
Yeah.
shoes than me. So I've got the Pumas, Fast R3s. They're just not that comfortable.
Yeah.
It's that what I find with them is they feel really good, feel really bouncy. Uh, and the economy when I did the economy testing was they were the best shoe I've ever tested in. Uh, but I can't get the tightness right. They're either too tight and it's hurting my feet, or it's too loose and I'm going to fall over going around a corner. Uh, Great in a straight line. And then I got my other option is the Metaspeed Edge Tokyos, which the economy was pretty much the same, maybe slightly worse, but they just feel great. They're really comfortable. Just straight out of the box, put them on, like feel good. So I'm dilemmaing. They don't feel as bouncy and fast, and I know that's not. And psychologically, they feel slower. Or even though doing economy stuff, they were pretty much the same. Like maybe like 0.1% worse on average. But that's my
Yeah.
dilemma I'm having.
It's difficult if they don't fit properly. Like, I mean, I've got some shoes that don't fit properly, and I do things like cutting the uppers, but you probably don't want to do that on your Pumas.
It's not. Yeah, it's the if it was a 10K or if it was a half marathon, I 100% wouldn't wear the
Yeah,
Pumas because it's a 5K. I sort of feel like I can put up with it for 5K. But yeah, like this like on Wednesday I did 5 times 6 minutes, 19K an hour on the treadmill in the Asics, and then did 8 times 400 in the evening in the Pumas, and felt like super good running 68 seconds in the Pumas, but they're not that comfy. So I don't know. I still haven't decided. Probably doesn't make a difference, but one of those
yeah.
ones.
I need to get a pair of the Pumas because I'm so toey that they'd probably actually work for me. Like, I don't really
They're
care
also
about.
slightly big. I find that they come in slightly big for size as well. So I've got quite a lot of space at the end, which probably doesn't help.
Yeah, you need to play around with the lacing, I guess. But
That's yeah.
hard to do.
Anyway,
Hard to do 2 days out, isn't it?
yeah. What I've only what yeah that was. I was hoping I was going to put them on Wednesday and they would just feel good, but and they did, but just not comfy. So anyway, how are you doing? You've got a race
Yeah.
coming up this weekend too.
Yeah, I mean, probably the other end of the spectrum almost. But yeah, I'm doing a like trail relay with the club, which should be good fun. Going to go recon the course on Saturday morning because it's not marked, so you're responsible for your own navigation, um, which I kind of like as well.
Can you
Yeah,
just put it in your watch?
yeah, you could do, but I want to see where the sort of there's a complicated bit at the end of the stage, which I want to check out because it's just so much easier if you've seen it and you know it's complicated and it's up a very steep hill. So it's if you
Where
know
is
what's
it?
coming, it's along the River Wye, so on the border of England and Wales. Um, yeah, if you know what's coming hill wise, that's a benefit, and if you know what's coming direction wise, that's a benefit. So combined, it's yeah. I'll go recon that and then come down and watch podium. I think is the plan. A podium, home nations.
It's
we'll,
not
we'll always
podium
get it wrong.
anymore. It's
I
not podium.
know. Yeah,
Home
come
nations.
yeah, come watch that. Come yeah, see some good racing. The fields are really good. Yeah, they just released them earlier today because I immediately sent the screenshot of you entered 3 times.
Why did you bring that up? I've explained this. I entered myself. Then I got then they slid into my DMs and said, "Do you want elite entry?" And I thought, well, I'll have an elite entry, even though I've already paid for it because there might be some perks to that. I don't know. And then I got selected for the Welsh team as well, so they entered me as well. So I'm down 3 times on the start list. That's like three. That just basically means 3 attempts at a PB, right? Do I
Yeah,
get 3 chips? Can I stick a
yeah.
chip on
Give
somebody
them to
else?
someone else. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Jack
I'll
Rowe
take
can
one
have one of
and
my chips.
I'll take one and we'll both get banned by Welsh Athletics for banditing. Yeah, no, but no, yeah. Training is good. Yeah, just plugging away really. Yeah, it's almost time for math, and I say almost time for math and training. It's barely going to change probably, but yeah. But I think
Just a
that's
little
that's
bit
a good thing,
more, a
isn't
little
it?
bit more, a little bit longer.
Yeah, like you probably don't want to be changing completely everything, do you? You just want to roll in fairly fit and yeah, sort of finish off. I mean, that's the conclusion we came to with our last two Road 2 series, wasn't it? It was actually how much more running you did in the 6 months before were the more important thing than
Yeah, and I
the
also think
last.
fitness is fitness. Like when I stood on the start line of Valencia last year and ran 2:12:59, I would have PB'd in a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon. Not a 1500 or an 800. Well, maybe I would because my times are so weak, but uh, I wouldn't. But if you've got the determinants of performance are so similar
Yeah,
that surely if you're good at one, you can be good at the other.
yeah.
There's
I mean, we'd
obviously
probably
some people have strengths and weaknesses, but I think if you're in the best shape of your life, you're in the best shape of your life.
yeah. It's just that last like peaking few weeks, isn't it? That's maybe slightly different between them, but yeah, like we've said when we talked about this before, haven't we? Like there's a reason people set PBs in other distances when they're marathon training. It's because yeah, the physiology isn't vastly different, and they're probably just doing more running.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, last year I set a PB in the 5K I PB'd, half marathon I PB'd, 10K I was like a second off my PB, and then I ran a marathon PB. Right,
Yeah, yeah.
it's
They're all
just fitness is fitness.
all pretty similar. It's all running.
Yeah, yeah. So just do the same training all year round, and you'll be great.
Yeah, you maybe get a bit stale, get a bit bored.
Nah, nah. Just 5 times 10 minutes every week.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a
That's
good
not what we
session.
give our athletes.
Everyone's rushing to Brady's Strava now, having a look at
Yeah,
what he's done. I think he's
yeah,
doing 6 minutes, isn't he? Or 6 times 10 minutes.
yeah. Well, he's a big boy, isn't he?
Yeah.
180K a week. Anyway,
um. So I guess we'll start with Saw. As always, we're sponsored by Saw. Yeah, check out. There's even more new kit on the Saw website. There's now race tees as well. In yeah, more cool patterns. Race base layer as well, which is similar design to our trail tops. So yeah, I think that looks really cool. Our trail tops. Yeah, especially as it's getting
the
cold now.
glasses
There
I'm
was
eyeing up. It's the
yeah, you want
glasses
the
I'm eyeing. I want the
I want to see
glasses.
you at podium or home nations in the glasses.
I'll send them a message and see if they can sort me out. No,
Yeah,
they look pretty cool.
I have thought like if you wear sunglasses, you wear like gooder sunglasses, don't you? And I've always been I want to see Dan in like a massive pair of Oakleys. I think
So I was, but I've scratched the lenses of the good old ones. So I was in Mountain Warehouse the other day. £6 for a pair of glasses, half price they were. Uh, so they're my current glasses, and I need to tighten up some of the screws because they're already loose. But I don't understand how you can get sunglasses for £6. I'm not, and actually seem to be all right.
I don't know. I
Someone's
reckon
getting
you're
exploited somewhere, probably, aren't they? But
yeah. Yeah, or your eyes are getting absolutely cooked.
But yeah, one of the two. One of the two. Anyway.
Yeah, but that's a massive tangent from Store. Yeah, no, check out Store. There's really cool designs, and it's getting cold. Like this morning, I was like, oh, I need a long sleeve. So yeah, start thinking about your winter wardrobe as well. I reckon. On the weekend, on my long run this weekend, there was some good discussion with Jen about she's looking forward to being able to wear tights on runs again. And I was like, yeah, I wouldn't mind a really cold run. So I'm already thinking about my winter wardrobe.
I
You're
hate
not.
wearing tights. I'm literally short as long as I can.
No. As soon as I don't know, maybe below 10 degrees, I'm like, yeah, full layers.
Oh no, my cutoff is at like 5 degrees at least. 5 degrees below tights,
Yeah,
above
no
the
ten.
shorts. I'm pretty.
It's,
I know. I only own tiny split shorts as well. So
no, I'm in tights. But yeah, no, check out the saw gear. Yeah, especially as it's starting to get colder. So today's interview, really good interview with Dr. Nichola Renwick. Nicola is a senior researcher in breast and bra biomechanics at the University of Portsmouth. So we're talking all things sports bras. I think is probably the best way to describe our discussion. But she comes from a biomechanics background as well. So her PhD was in clinical biomechanics, looking at feet and ankle mobility in patients with diabetes. So come from a clinical background and biomechanics, and is now looking into sports bras and breast biomechanics, which I think is an interesting topic. We learned a lot
oh yeah,
throughout
learnt
it.
loads. Yeah, learnt loads. I knew nothing, and I feel much more educated now. But also, she's worked, and their team in Portsmouth have worked with like the highest level of athlete, like the Lionesses and Team GB athletes, and yeah, like some really meaningful data showing big impacts of a properly fitting sports bra on so many different variables related to performance. So it was, yeah, really interesting topic and something I probably hadn't given enough thought about. Not that I had
Yeah,
to for myself, but for other people, like it definitely makes a difference. I hadn't really even considered it, to be honest.
yeah, but I guess that was one of her sort of discussion points, wasn't it? That it isn't just in the context of the lionesses, the players. It's not just the players that need to know. It's all of the support staff around the team should know about this as well. And us as we're coaching people, right, and we're working in an applied setting, and it's on us to know this as well, I guess. So it's useful for us to know, and I guess also even thinking back to the interview with Emma Ross a few weeks ago, and sort of saying how even in um, you know even in UKSI, like there was just such siloed thinking, and people didn't realize maybe the problems. So yeah, just for us opening our minds to something that we don't have to consider, I think is really valuable.
Oh, 100%. And I think it's definitely does affect women. And I think there's a lack of education. And yeah, Nicola speaks a lot about that. But
Yeah,
also some really good, like just practical takeaways and recommendations for what you should be looking for in a good sports bra, what other criteria that you should be looking to check off. And yeah, I think it was I really enjoyed the conversation
yeah,
and definitely learned a lot.
yeah. Me too. And we mentioned it at the end, but there's some links in the bio for some education pieces around your sports bra fitting, which hopefully come in handy. But yeah, I think we'll leave everyone to the interview now. So enjoy, and we'll catch you next time. So we're really excited to be joined today by Nichola Renwick. Nichola is a senior researcher in breast and bra biomechanics at the University of Portsmouth. I was looking through where you've sort of gone through your, I guess, academic career, and a lot of it, well, all of it's in Scotland, and then you decided to move to Portsmouth. What drew you down south?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could say it was something I planned, but it was a little bit by accident. A very happy accident though. Um, so all of my prior work in education had been up in Scotland, and then I was at the point where I'd finished my PhD, coming to the end of it, and I knew that I wanted to continue working in research and in biomechanics. I'd previously been in foot and ankle biomechanics. And yeah, I saw a job advertised for at the University of Portsmouth in Breston kind of biomechanics. And I was like, oh, that sounds really interesting, and that could be something really interesting to get into. And it was all my knowledge from my lab-based skills and applying it to a different body part. So I was like, yeah, it's another challenge. I'm a sucker for a challenge. So I was like, let's see where that takes me. And it's, yeah, ended up in quite a nice little career pathway for me. So it's been really good.
Yeah, and some of the work coming out of the lab is and the research group is really cool. I know, like looking into this, like the lab, I'd say, I guess this is right. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but worked with the England women's football team recently. Yeah, which is, you know, really cool, sort of applied level work at sort of top level sport as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really great. So we've worked with the Team GB Olympic athletes as well in the past. So we worked with them for Tokyo. And we've got a really good working relationship with the FA and the Lionesses, and we've been working with them since their Euros, for both the winning Euros. I can't remember the year the first one was in, but from then we started our working relationship with them, and they've been really great. So yeah, we've managed to start at the higher level, but the FA have really appreciated and seen the benefit of the work that we've done with them and the interventions that we put in place with them, and they're feeding it through all the different kind of age groups of the female footballers that they have within their association. So yeah, it's been a really great to see it all kind of come together.
Yeah,
That's really, yeah, really exciting stuff, and getting to work with, yeah, some of the best athletes on the planet is incredible. During your PhD and before that, when you were focusing on ankle and foot biomechanics, were you doing applied work there? What was the context behind your PhD work?
Yeah, so my PhD work was in basically in orthopedics. So it was applied biomechanics through an orthopedics lens. So I was looking at people who had really severe diabetic foot disease, and then who required surgical correction for it. And then we were having conversations with surgeons, and they were basically saying, we don't really know if what we're doing is the right thing. We're going on our instinct, and we don't know what to do with these patients, essentially, because it's so complicated. But their foot shape has changed mechanically completely, and we don't know if it's best to restore it or to try something else with it. So the premise of my PhD was to start out and try and understand what is happening to these feet mechanically and why it is. And then the hope was that it was to look at it kind of post surgical as well, to see what has then happened and is the treatment that they're getting, is that useful for them. And then unfortunately the COVID pandemic hit, so I didn't get to do kind of the post-surgical follow-up, which was a shame. But yeah, so it was still very much applied, but very much in a clinical context rather than a sporting context. So it's kind of, it's very different in almost that there's a lot more kind of structure within the clinical side of things, like through clinical research, and then into sport you can kind of get people to do a lot more different things. So yeah, so it's always kind of look through things in an applied lens, which I think just, it makes everything just makes so much more sense to me, especially when you start trying to think about, you know, physics and mechanics and then add in physiology. Adding all of that together is just can get quite confusing, but as soon as you use it to answer a direct kind of applied question, to me it just makes a lot more sense and the picture just becomes a lot clearer.
Yeah, I mean, I really feel your pain with a COVID affected PhD. I was the same. I think when did I start? September 2019. So it's literally, yeah, 6 months later when we get hit by a pandemic, which is not ideal when you're working with people and athletes, etc. But yeah, and again, I with the applied work as well, I you know, mechanistic stuff is very, very interesting, but unless it's, I find unless you're applying it to something and you're actually going to make a difference to somebody's like health or sporting performance, it's hard to really get the buy-in, I think, from myself to actually go and do that research and do the reading and be interested in it.
Yeah, I think that's a lot. And I think it's but not just for myself, but within the research group, a lot of the time we're always asking the question, okay, that's really interesting, but so what? what does that mean? What's this useful knowledge for? How is it going to benefit someone down the line? Like, how far away are we from that benefit for those other people? So we pretty much everything we do, we look through kind of like the end user, the person that is going to benefit at the end of the day.
And I think, sorry,
go on,
you
Owain,
go ahead,
sorry.
Dan. I was going to say, I guess, sort of bringing in sort of your current work, and yeah, talking about the benefit to end users. Like that, I noted down this quote about actually working with Team GB and the sort of sports bra fitting service that you provided for Team GB athletes, and the quote is around 97% of those prescribed a bra reported benefits in comfort, fit, and support, and 17% said it significantly improved their performance, which is that's pretty good going if 97% of the people you work with report a benefit. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good success rate. I'd be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, we are very happy with that. It's one of those things. I think a lot of things people assume that women or even coaching teams, everything like um, support staff, medics, that they're all taught about breasts and bras and what they should be wearing, and it's just kind of like, oh, you should know, like you're the one doing it, you should like know. And then what we found out when we started kind of looking at these interventions with athletes was actually, if we didn't kind of educate them to begin with, they actually didn't know that much about breasts and why it was important to wear a bra and what a bra could do for them and to help their performance. Um, so it's kind of like getting it almost, that's something that we're really proud of as a research group, is all the work that we've done over the past kind of 20 years collectively. We're able to feed that into education, that then we can, provide to athletes, provide to, we do a lot of work with kind of local groups within the community as well. And we have a really great initiative that we had done. We had a PhD student doing it a few years ago, which was creating an education program for schoolgirls. And it's called Treasure Your Chest, and it's a free resource. It's evidence-based, and anyone can kind of go and download it as long as it's not for commercial purposes, and kind of be able to deliver the education to the people that need it, because it's just something that's not taught. And that was kind of something to begin with. So when we then see that actually when we do the education and then they get the bras, and then we've got, the people, the elite people saying, 97% of them saying that they saw a benefit in that, that just, yeah, it's really amazing for us that we can see that and see that impact that it's having.
I guess for the purposes of this podcast and potentially for me and Dan as well, but for our listeners, as a sort of starting point, I guess I'm asking you to maybe call on some of your undergrad knowledge in anatomy. But are you able to sort of just, I guess, explain the anatomy and physiology of breasts, and especially in women?
Yeah, so breasts themselves are complicated in many ways. So when we think about breasts, they're described within scientific literature as well, not just kind of by anyone, as kind of like a wobbly mass. So they're not a rigid body; they're soft tissue. They deform within themselves. And they're composed of two different types of tissue. So you have the glandular tissue, which is where the milk duct. So if you are pregnant, and that's like the functional part of the breast in women, and why women have breasts and men don't. For pregnancy, they'll kind of grow and develop and then start producing milk for breastfeeding. So you have that part of the breast tissue, and then you have a fatty tissue around it as well. And there's lots of different kind of compositions of that. There's some people have more glandular tissue than fatty tissue. Some people have more fatty tissue, and how that's kind of arranged as well, how those tissues kind of are arranged around each other, that can differ from different people as well. And all of that means is that breast shapes are different, breast sizes are different, and there's lots of things that play into that and how those sizes change. It can be genetics, it can be lifestyle, it can be times like milestones throughout your life. So from when you're a girl to going through puberty, And then when you are pregnant as well, they're changing. And then if you're into menopause as well, you see changes as well. So they're kind of hormonal changes related to breast shape and size as well. And of course, across the menstrual cycle as well, all those kind of things, the shape and size of your breast can change across then as well. So they're constantly changing, constantly there. But when we think about it in terms of bras, when we see that the reason that we need them is so we have this tissue, we have this mass that's sitting on the front of our body, and the bigger they are, the heavier they get. But they don't actually have anything really that much anatomically holding them to the chest wall. So they sit on top of the muscle, so there's not muscle over them. And they have some little ligaments in them called Cooper's ligaments that they're really thin ligaments kind of interspersed throughout the glandular and the fatty tissue. And they kind of try and hold it to the chest wall. But the main supporting structure of the breast is actually skin itself. So the skin that covers it. And when we kind of move about day to day, they're going to move if they're not supported, and that can cause this skin to then stretch, and it'll get to a point where kind of over time, that skin will stretch to a point where the collagen fibers within the skin start to break down, and we think that's related to breast pain, to movement-induced breast pain. We think that might be some kind of component of it, this kind of skin stretching and breaking. And that also can lead to stretch marks and then breasts sagging as well. So kind of completely moving the position of the breast on the chest wall. But the good news is a lot of these kind of things can be then solved by wearing a bra, and they just kind of help add that support to the breast and stop that excessive movement and hopefully keep them in a more comfortable position for people throughout the day for their everyday to day, but then especially during physical activity as well, when you tend to have a lot more breast movement.
I think I've learned something there. I know I even like read a bit of an anatomy textbook earlier, but I still felt like I picked something up there. So thank you for that. I guess then sort of getting into biomechanics, and we're almost sort of following your academic journey here, I guess, a bit. But when you're then undertaking research, I guess this might also be a good introduction to biomechanics for our listeners, because we don't often talk about it. But what are you actually like measuring when you undertake research? I know you've got a study on at the moment with a couple of different conditions. So what are you measuring like across those conditions?
Yeah, so when we in breast biomechanics, we typically, but not always, we look at how the breast moves in relation to how the body is moving. So as it's a soft tissue, like I said, it is a soft body. So the movement of the breast is determined by the movement of the body. So primarily the movement of the torso. So it's kind of going to follow behind whatever the torso is moving. So what we're looking at is how does that breast, so we call it displacement. So how far is that kind of moving distance wise from the torso? So, and we also like to look at, is it moving at the same, like this in the same direction as the torso at the same time? So we look at what direction the breast is moving in, how far it's moving. And then we also look at how fast it's moving. So we look at the velocity and the acceleration of the breast as well. And we've actually, this is one of my really fun facts that I like to share. It also kind of slightly scares people, but just to put it in context of how drastic kind of breast motion can be. We've measured in our lab where we have women when they run without a bra on, they have higher G-force accelerations than an F1 driver does during a race. So that's how fast breasts accelerate when you're running on a treadmill, faster than an F1 driver. So I always like to put that in to just kind of, it's quite an aggressive motion when they're not being supported.
I guess then what is the impact of a properly fitted sports bra on those forces? If they're so substantial, how much can we reduce that by with proper equipment?
Yeah, I mean, that's $1 million question. That's what so much of our research is really based around, and looking at, okay, so what are the sports bras that are available at the moment? How do they reduce that? So what we're able to do in our labs, which is quite unique, is that so typically in biomechanics, you measure how the body moves using motion capture. So they're an infrared camera system, and you get these little kind of markers and cover them all over the body, and the cameras will pick up these markers and track the movement of the body. What we do differently though is, because unfortunately we can't then see what's happening inside a bra. So we can put markers on the outside of the bra, but if you've got a bra that's maybe got a lot of padding or a lot of structure to it, it might look like the breast isn't moving because that marker isn't moving, but the breast could be moving a lot inside that bra. So we use a motion sensor system. So it's a wired sensor system. So it's an electromagnetic system. So it's basically a little magnet. It tracks back to a source box that we have. And that way we're able to measure the movement of the breast inside bras. So we're able to then see how much is the bra reducing breast movement. And our kind of biggest measure that we use and that we have, and so we also have an in-house bra testing unit, which we do product testing for kind of all the major brands, startup companies. Everyone can kind of come and test anything with us. So what we use for them is a movement of breast movement reduction. So we look at the percentage reduction that the bra is reducing the displacement of the breast. And from that, we're able to rank bras into low, medium, and high support. So that's kind of something that is how we kind of categorize the bras that come through our lab. That's not necessarily what the industry will use. So if you see a label and it says high support, they can, unfortunately, there's no kind of like standard practice across kind of the industry. So they can kind of market it as what they want. But the good news is a lot of them come and do check what their rating is through our methods. But we can also track, the velocity of the breast, the acceleration of the breast within the bra. And we really want to see how is it not even necessarily reduced, but how is it different in the bra conditions? And what does that mean? And is that a positive change or is it a negative change? And for that, we rely a lot as well on the perception from the participants themselves. So we get them to give us their feedback and say, how do you like this bra? Do you feel supportive? How would you rank it for support? What's different about this bra? And really get kind of what they're feeling and sensing about the bra, because that can sometimes be completely different to what you're measuring, which is kind of fascinating. And we're still trying to get to the bottom of a lot of these questions around, okay, so what is it that women are experiencing and feeling, even though we're measuring it being really good and being really, from our measure of support, is really great, but then they're saying, no, it's rubbish. So what's different and what's happening there?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I can imagine, like you're looking at the data and you're like, oh, this is really great. And then the participant says, no, that felt horrible.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're just, scratching your head maybe a bit like, yeah. I was just going to ask, is it a case of if you lower one of those measures, so displacement or velocity, it's good, or do you think there's maybe maybe not a middle ground, but it's not a case of completely reducing it. It's more of an optimization, or do you think it is just lower the number generally the better?
So I think it's kind of, there's probably an optimal area for this kind of breast reduction. And one of our colleagues, his name's Chris Mills, he does a lot of musculoskeletal modeling work. So that's kind of computer simulations of breast movement. And he had a paper published recently which he simulated, okay, so what happens if you completely stop all breast movements, so 100% bounce reduction, and what happens? And he found that there's actually then extra forces on the back, affecting, the back muscles and the spinal loading. That's actually kind of really a negative effect. So we do think that there's kind of an optimum level of where you do need to potentially allow some movement, but you still need to stop it enough to kind of, be protective as well of those tissues, to stop that kind of strain of those tissues.
I guess one of the challenges I imagine to like assessing different makes and models of bra is, I guess the fitting probably makes as much a difference, does it, as the actual composition? Is that true?
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, fitting is one of those things that we think is really key. A lot of problems that women experience when they have with bras is down to probably them wearing not the right size. And there'll be some people who will be wearing the right size and they're still having issues. And, don't worry, if you are one of those people, we are very much trying to solve them. But yeah, making sure that you're wearing the right size. If the bra is kind of essentially, it's like a piece of, especially a sports bra, it's quite a high tech piece of kit. Some of them, they really are. And it's there to provide a function. But if it's not the right size, it's not going to be able to do its job. It's not going to be able to work properly. So if you're wearing a bra and it's too big on the underband, you're not going to have that strong anchor to be able to that's going to then allow the bra to provide your breast with support. So straight away, you're going to run into issues because you're not allowing it to do its job properly. And then again, if you're wearing it, too small as well, then that's going to cause other types of discomfort that's then going to impact your performance too. So yeah, fit is something that we really kind of bang on and on about. That's kind of key. Make sure that your bra is fitting you correctly.
So outside of sorry, I thought you were going to go there, Owain. Outside of comfort and pain, how can a properly fitted sports bra influence sporting performance?
Yeah, so we'd say like a really, in terms of comfort and pain, so a properly fitting one. So it's kind of also in terms of properly fitting, but then also the support level as well. So we see a lot of differences between bras of different support level, and done we've done a lot of things from feedback, psychological kind of surveys, physiological studies as well as biomechanics. So biomechanics we've seen, so if you're wearing a high support bra that's correctly fitting compared to a low support bra, you hit the ground harder in the low support, so you're increasing your ground reaction forces. That's basically the force that comes back from the ground up through your body when you're running. So that can actually then potentially go on to kind of cause more damage to, maybe your ankle, your feet, your knees, because that force is stronger. So it's putting more work, like your body's having to kind of absorb more energy and more force. We see that your stride length decreases as well during running if you're wearing a low support bra compared to a high support bra. And this is on average, about 4 centimeters per stride. And if you were running a marathon, it would mean that it would be the equivalent of the version of you in a high support bra is going to finish a mile ahead of the version of you in a low support bra. So all those 4 centimeters really add up over time. And then we also see that it can affect the rest of the body. So we see that the upper body muscles work a lot harder as well if you're in a low support bra. So they kind of almost like are tensing and controlling them in order to kind of prevent excessive breast movement, or they might be kind of moving their body, repositioning it in order to kind of stop that extra kind of breast movement that they wouldn't need to in a higher support bra. Physiologically, we see that they work harder essentially as well, but they change. There's a couple of kind of different ones that we see that the breathing frequency changes. So you breathe less frequently, I think, in a low support bra than you would in a high support bra. And again, it's this kind of controlling all this upper body movement and trying to prevent that kind of excessive breast movement. And there are a few studies at the moment going around really looking at the effect of underband tightness as well on breathing and oxygen consumption during running, to see how is that. So you've got a good bra, but then is the underband too tight and not letting you breathe kind of enough? So it's kind of it's a balance of getting comfort and getting the bra to perform its function, but also allowing your body to kind of be able to do what you're asking it to do as well. And then I touch on it, psychological stuff as well. So yeah, we see that women have a lot more kind of confidence as well when they're in a high support bra, and they don't feel like they're aware of their breasts moving. So it kind of helps. They're less embarrassed by their breasts as well when it can be in a high support bra. So it can have like it affects everything, which is really fascinating. It just means I think if you can tell from the massive list that I've just kind of spewed out, there's so many things that it impacts for, and that's for everyone from just your recreational athlete, all the way up to elite people. So it affects anyone, really.
Yeah, it's really nice, I guess, hearing as well the sort of inter and multidisciplinary approach to it as well, because it is so yeah, like multifaceted, isn't it? Like I don't think we'd be ashamed to say, Dan, right, that we're physiology biased.
Oh,
So
100%. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so we tend to fall into that, like, is what's their oxygen consumption? You know, what was their lactate levels? But no, yeah, hearing just the multi sort of disciplinary approach is really cool, because that's really important. I know when we talk about like running shoes and we're like, well, just did it feel good? You know, it doesn't matter if it measures well if it doesn't feel good. So that even just that basic psychological sort of feedback is as important maybe as any measure anyway. um I guess I wanted to just sort of ask, because you know we said like we don't often talk biomechanics, but I guess could you just talk us through, I guess, with maybe an example of like some of your current work, um what you're actually measuring. So if someone came into the lab and you know you're setting them up to be tested, um, what data are you measuring? You know, not necessarily, I guess, just the data that gets published at the end of it, but you know, like what's the data set that you're getting at the end of an end of a biomechanical study?
Yeah, so we there's lots of different things that we can do, which is really fun. So I'll talk about a couple of different things that we've done with our sensors. So we typically track breast motion as the movement of the nipple. So we look at the nipple and how it, like I said, measures it relative to the torso. So we put sensors, we put two sensors on your chest bones, on your sternum, and we put two on your spine. And then you get a sensor on each nipple. And that's when I've talked about the displacement, velocity, and acceleration. That's all from the nipple relative to the torso. And then, so we get that motion for three different directions. So we get it for vertical, so up and down, side to side, and then forwards and backwards motion as well. What we can also do, which is really interesting, is we can put multiple sensors all over the breast, as well as the ones on the torso. And from that, we're able to look at skin strain as well. So we're able to see, when I was talking before about how we think breast pain could be related to the skin stretching, we're able to measure that skin strain from the sensor placement as well. And we've published on that before and seen some really high levels of skin strain during activity. And we've seen it even from just women just standing, just the effect of gravity is able to actually cause strain on them if they're not wearing a bra, that was quite some of the rates where they were having for just women standing without a bra on. We were like, wow, that's quite a lot. So that's kind of probably the main things we look at biomechanically for the breast. And then we can also, another thing we look at is breast volume. So we do scanning, so we have surface scans. So we can look at what volume the breast is, and we can compare that between different appointments. So we could have them, you know, at different times in their menstrual cycle, or, you know, I don't know what other ones we could do for volume. So we can hear volumes through different times to see, are they changing in volume? And then we can also scan to then look at bra fit as well, but then also to compare how the shape of the breast has changed in different bras and where how that position has moved as well. So those are kind of the main things that we look at. And then for the biomechanics side of things, we do that in lots of different bra conditions as well. I'm trying to think what else we do.
That's do you measure like other body parts at the same time as well? So yeah, you're talking about like vertical oscillation. Like, are you looking at that, you know, in sort of, I guess, around the leg? Like maybe like knee and hip as well. Like, are you measuring those areas?
Yeah, so what we can do and what we're starting to do a lot more of is combine our motion sensor that I said that we use to be able to look inside the bra. We're now starting to combine that a lot more with motion capture. So we can have the camera system synced up with our sensor system, so that we can then do that and look at how different parts of the body are moving, and is there a relationship between how the breast is moving, or does the bra then change that? We can also use EMG in with all of that as well. So that's looking at muscle activity. So we can sync that all up together. And we've done studies like that before when I said we saw that the upper body muscles were working harder. So we had sensors on some of the deltoid muscles, pec muscles, and trap muscles. That's on like your back and around your shoulder. And we did see that they changed depending on the different type of bra. We saw that muscle activity significantly change, which was really interesting. And then we have force plates as well, which measure the forces, the ground reaction forces as well. So we have that. So we are able to combine all of that together. So we're very typical of that. We've got lots of big data sets, and there's never enough time to look at all the data that we've got. So yeah, we're very fortunate in that respect.
The contrast, at least, for us, like up at Cardiff Met, like the contrast of the physiology lab, which got a treadmill and a metabolic cart, and then you go to the biomechanics lab and it's got camera suites and then you see the data, and there's like you've just run like where we've done some of the motion capture stuff, and there's your skeleton running. It does look really cool, like when you
Yeah,
see all of that. And yeah, even the EMG stuff, like I've got a bad memory from my master's course of my master's colleagues shaving my leg to put an EMG on the back of my calf, and they're
yeah.
really terrible at shaving. Yeah, I should have taught that better on the course. But yeah, it is really cool when you see all of the biomechanics sort of going, and then what it can produce as well. It sort of puts our metabolic cart to shame sometimes,
But
I think.
also the sheer
Oh,
number of variables you get
Yeah.
out of I've seen them, like an Excel spreadsheet with just 1,000 columns in just of different different variables and
yeah,
forces and joint angles and
yeah, and
velocities.
everything's in 3 dimensions. You've got one variable, but you always have three versions of it essentially for each direction that you're looking at. And you've got all the different conditions and for all the time points that you've done it as well. And we've just got thousands and thousands of data points. So sometimes it's really a lot of the time is like, okay, so this is our question that we have to answer. What do we need? Because we could look at, there's so many things that we can look at. So what is it that we need to answer that question? Or what do we think we need to answer that question, and kind of start at that point. And then it often kind of expands and expands and expands. And usually we're really bad for it, at least I am, of trying to answer one question and then it just opens a can of worms into lots of other things, and lots of creating new variables and everything. So it's yeah it's fun, but it can be sometimes overwhelming, like say when you see some of those spreadsheets, you're like, oh god, where do I start with this?
Yeah, as physiologists, like my like really burning question is what is the evidence base for the effectiveness of a sports bra on reducing like running economy? Because all of those, I guess there's probably not a whole lot of stuff out there, but at the same time, all those variables that you've said can be influenced by a well-fitting sports bra. You'd hope that would translate into reduced oxygen cost, reduced energy expenditure, and then if you can improve your running economy, then running faster for a given energy expenditure, which is an easy sell to an athlete. If you just look at super shoes, everybody knows that if you put them on, you're going to become more economical. And actually, we see it in race times. Like race times over every distance have exploded since super shoes have come around. Is there a sports bra revolution on the horizon to see a woman run under 4 minutes for a mile, for example?
I believe in the power of a sports bra. I really do. I think the issue that it's great that we get to do education with athletes, and we almost have to get their buy-in from it as well. And not just their buy-in, but sometimes their coaching and their support staff as well, to be able to have their athletes come up to them and say that they're having an issue in training, but it is maybe with their sports bra, and can they try another one? Because the evidence is there. If you've got a well-fitting and a correct sports bra for you, that's a high support for your sport that you're doing, that's also key, is that it can improve your performance. And these might be marginal gains, but when you're at that really top elite level, those marginal gains are going to make a massive difference to you, and could be the difference between you finishing on a podium and you not coming away with anything. I think the trick is, especially with elite athletes, is is a sports bra provided to them by their sponsor? Are they kind of have to wear ones that their sponsor providing them? Is it seen as a piece of kit? Who's providing them with the bras? What education do they have around the bras? But also then what is that person's needs? Because as much as I believe in the power of the sports bra, I don't think there's ever going to be one kind of bra that's going to be the best for everyone. I think shoes and super shoes are probably a lot easier because there's less, even though there is variability within feet, there's a lot more variability within breasts. So think about how many shoe sizes you get compared to you go to buy a bra, how many different bra sizes you could get. So with that variation comes where it needs to be a bit more tailored to the athlete, essentially, and that can be frustrating for them and being a lot of trial and error, but they want to be able to have consistent kind of training blocks as well. And if they're switching out a piece of their kit, every other week to try and get something better, for them mentally, that's probably going to be an extra stress on them as well.
So with the high performance athletes you support, so the lionesses, for example, what service are you providing them? What does that look like?
So with the lionesses, what we do is we go out and we start with an education workshop. So that's for the athletes themselves, but also their coaches, their support staff. They can all come along to it as well. We like to keep it as open as possible because we do believe that it sets a good example for everyone to be educated the same. Everyone can see that they can then go to them and be like, well, you were there, you heard what they said about that, and kind of creates that open conversation. And then their staff can see, their players may be asking questions about certain things and they didn't know that that was an issue for them. So to try and get the best out of each other. So we provide an educational workshop on breasts and bras. And then what we do is we do one-on-one bra fittings with them. So we'll give them the option of a few bras that have been provided that they can then try on. So they can see what size they are in the styles, and they can try on different styles that they've maybe not necessarily tried on before. And then they get to kind of take one away with them or have one purchased for them. And then they get to wear that for whatever they want, if it's training, if it's during matches. And then we follow up after them with a survey to see how they feel that bra has helped their performance. So yeah, that's kind of the what we've done, and we get to hear back from them about if it's changed their bra habits or what they got out of it. And yeah.
Do you do any? Sorry, Owain.
I was just going to say, have you done any work in the lab with them as well, or is that all sort of that survey piece that you do afterwards?
With the lionesses, we've done just the kind of survey stuff. Some of the other athletes we've had in the lab before, so some of the Team GB athletes, we had them in the lab. So they were ones who had, some maybe particular issues with finding the right bra. So we had them in and we would do kind of a biomechanical assessment and work a bit more closer with them to see what are their issues and how it was. Some of it as well was really relative to the sport that they were doing. So they were saying, oh no, the bras that I can't have, they're inhibiting me from doing certain things with my shoulder that I need to be able to do to perform my best that I can do. Yeah. And then we've had a few athletes and stuff that they kind of want to be like a real champion for kind of breast health within their kind of local athlete communities. So they've come along to our lab and they've kind of done a biomechanics session with us and some education with us as well, which is really great. Again, to get buy-in from the athletes on what we're doing, like it is that's where it goes really far, and then it gets out and they're able to share it with their kind of colleagues and then the up and coming athletes. It's just everyone then kind of sharing the knowledge with everyone else. It's really nice to see all of that happening.
What are some current research questions that you've got that you'd love to go and pursue or currently pursuing at the minute?
I think something that in our research group that we're getting really interested in is kind of sport specific kind of sports bras. So a lot of the research so far in breast and bras, if you look into it, is done on kind of treadmill running, and pretty much, or just on running really in general. And we're kind of trying to expand that more out into kind of real world. So looking at sports where, your main movement isn't necessarily running or in that kind of plane, we've done a study before where we saw kind of the proportion of breast movement depending on different tasks. So we had running, and then we had jumping, and then we had like an agility movement, so kind of like a cutting movement, so going to the side. And we saw that depending on the activity changed where that kind of proportion and magnitude peaks of that breast movement was happening. So comparing the running with the agility movement, for example. So in running, you have kind of most of it is vertical, and then you have kind of, so it's probably say maybe like 50% vertical, and then maybe like kind of 25% split for forwards and backwards and side to side movement. And then you go over to the agility task, but you're seeing it much, much more off in the side to side movement, because that's the way that the body's moving. So we're trying to see how can we then, so bras at the moment, are they made just for running, or is it going to be like footwear where you have, you know, a tennis bra, a golf bra, a running bra, and then, I don't know, a football bra? Like, just, is it going to be like that? And in terms of that, is that the way that it's going to go? Or are the bras that are made for running actually kind of doing an all around good job? So I think that's something that we are really interested in as well. And then something that I'm personally really interested in, and some of my research is looking at the relationship between the breast and the torso, and how they're moving. Are they moving at the same time? Are they moving at the same direction, like in the same direction at the same time? Are they moving at the same speed? And kind of what that relationship is. And because if we know that the torso is kind of pulling and driving the breast, so the breast is always following it, how does a bra then change that relationship? And is there a way to make it so that the breast is always moving with the torso? And then does that improve kind of the feelings of support and reduce breast pain? So that's kind of something that I'm really interested in going and exploring a lot further.
Yeah, that Joe, one of my questions was going to be like, is there sort of a sport dependent optimal bra maybe? But it sounds like we're maybe not even at that sort of stage. It's just a sort of yeah, everything's in running, and maybe that's correct. Are you seeing anything in the data so far, or not enough data yet?
Not enough data yet. So we don't have any findings from that I can share at the moment.
Sorry.
So
Need to analyze the huge spreadsheet.
yes.
um, yeah, I guess I was gonna, yeah, sticking with the applied stuff. Is there any sort of real, I guess, trying to think of the right way to phrase this. Is there maybe like a checklist people should go through if they're looking to buy a sports bra? Is there, like certain characteristics or certain things that people should be looking at which might lead to success with the sports bra?
Yeah, so if you're looking in particular for a high support sports bra, we've identified 5 kind of characteristics of those bras. So the first one is based on like this style of sports bra. So there are 3 different styles of sports bra. I'm sure you guys knew that. So there's kind of one that's a compression style. So that's one that looks like a crop top. It's over the head. And that's basically kind of one band of elastic that basically acts to hold the breast against the chest wall and compress it from that kind of into the chest direction. And then you have an encapsulation style. So an encapsulation style looks a little bit more like an everyday bra with a little bit more fabric. And that basically lifts and supports each breast individually. So those ones are typically better for women with larger breasts, because it is providing extra support that one band of elastic just isn't going to be able to provide them. And then you get one that's a combination style, which, surprise, surprise, is a combination of the two. So it looks, on the inside, looks like an encapsulation style. It's got 2 separate kind of cut components for the breasts. But then on the outside over the top, it's still got that kind of thin elastic material fabric across it. So it's kind of adding that compression to it. So one characteristic of a high support sports bra is that it's either an encapsulation or a combination style compared to a compression style. And we really wouldn't recommend anyone who's really bigger than a C cup shouldn't really be wearing a compression bra for any kind of high impact activities. We've also seen that a high neckline on the bra, so that helps reduce bounce movement reduction, so that kind of percentage reduction, and that kind of how supportive it is. And we've seen that for every centimetre that you raise that neckline of the bra, your breast movement reduces by 1%. So if you can get one that's got a high neckline, that's obviously not going to kind of interfere and annoy your throat and, kind of irritate you up there, then that's kind of a really good thing as well. We also have kind of adjustable straps, and adjustability really, but an adjustable underband is a really key thing. So again, those over the head ones, they're typically an elastic kind of stretch in order to get it over your shoulders and over your body. But if you've got one that's got a hook and eye component, that's typically a lot better, because it allows you to kind of then adjust it a lot more for your body as well. So you'll be able to get it on more easily as well. So you don't have to worry about stretching that fabric out, and then you can adjust it to your body as well. And then we have also the fabric component. So compared to from like nylon and polyester, we saw that a nylon is actually kind of more, a better characteristic for high support sports bra. And I think there's one more component, but I can't remember it off the top of my head right now. Maybe it was strap adjustability.
I'm sure you've done 5. I'm sure you've done 5. No, that's super, super helpful, because obviously I knew none of that, because I'm very lucky, and it's not something I've had to worry about. But I'm like speaking to my wife. I know she's always struggling with finding one that's right, and it's always a bit of a lottery. And I'm gonna send her this podcast once we've finished our recording, and hopefully it will help her making a more informed choice. But I think that's super helpful, and practical takeaways like that are really helpful for people, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things as well, is like these things like aren't taught. And you go into a shop and you buy a bra, or you guys might not know that, but you go into a shop and you buy a bra, and there's so many of them, but there's no instructions on like what ones you need, and you just have to go off of what's on the ticket and what it's telling you it is. But you don't, what is the evidence behind that? Has that actually been tested for that purpose? How do you know it's going to be, the right size for you? And then you go into sports bras again, and again, comparing to footwear, you pretty much know you're going to be the same size footwear, and they're never going to suddenly change all their sizes. So they're not suddenly going to go from, small, medium, and large, and then start being like, oh, you're a small A to C or a small D to double D in sizing, and then all of a sudden you're in band and cup sizes. You're a 34D or you're a 32C. Like it's so overwhelming sometimes for people, especially if you're someone who struggles with finding the right one. So yeah, I think that's also something that kind of in the area needs a lot more kind of consideration as well. Is just how we get the information again, or how we get the brands to put the information out there of how they can help their kind of customers get their right kind of product.
Yeah, I guess, again, we're linking it back to shoes a bit, but you think how much YouTube content there is about super shoes. And, for us runners, you maybe wear that once a month to race in. But this is something you're wearing every single day, to do your sport. And there's not any, information or, from the brands, or just even, I guess, contemporarily, it's a lot less publicized or covered, I guess. But I was going to ask. Sorry, you go ahead.
We're trying to change that. I mean, we try to just we'll just keep talking and just make people listen to us. So we love coming and doing like podcasts like this, where we just get to kind of talk about it and share all that information out. Because it's just, again, it's kind of getting it to be less of a taboo to talk about boobs and bras, and just be like, no, this is like a serious issue. It's a health issue, and it's something that, you can change, and there are things out there for you.
You mentioned brands coming in to test with you. Are there any sort of really good like evidence led brands that people might want to check out that are taking the work that you're doing and applying it?
We can't say. So we're very so because we we work with so many different brands, and we just like to remain really unbiased. Um, and I think that's something that's really important to us, is that we want them to feel like they still can come and they'll, regardless of who you are, you're going to get the same service. So I can't answer that, but I can say that there are some out there that are doing some very, very good work.
Is there sort of like is there a good relationship between the price and the quality?
Um, I think we've kind of tried to look at that before, um, and we've not really had anything kind of conclusive for it. Like saying that, a lot of it again, because it's a lot of the time down to personal preference. So if you're asking someone about kind of performance of it, there's not what are you ranking that performance on? Is it based on the support measurements, the biomechanics, or is it on what the participants or what the consumers, what they like? What is that performance on? But I wouldn't, if you find a bra that fits you and supports you and you feel great in it and you feel that you can exercise and move your body in it, and it's like 10 quid from Primark, then I'm not going to tell you to turn around and then go buy, some really kind of bougie, niche, I don't know, startup company one, or not even a startup, but just some really kind of like high end one. I don't know, that some sort of Kardashian has worn and it costs like 80 quid or something. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, the more expensive, the better. If you find one that works for you, and if you are that person who that really bougie one at 80 quid works for you and you love it, go for that as well. Like yeah, a lot of it is down to personal preference.
I didn't have any more questions. Did you have any more, Dan?
No, I think that's really educational for me and hopefully for our
Yeah,
listeners too.
I've learned
I
a lot.
think yeah, definitely, definitely. And yeah, just going back to that point that you made, Owain, about you're wearing this every run you do. This could be 12, 14 hours a week, and actually probably worth investing in it, isn't it? If you're actually at least spending the time to really find something that works for you.
Yeah, as well. And I say as well, again, think about it for your different activities that you're doing as well. And you'll have ones for maybe you're running, but then if you're doing weight training, you might want a different style. Then if you're doing yoga and Pilates, you might want another one. Um, and then again, if you're, kind of in a stage where you're training and then competing, you might not necessarily be competing in the same bra that you're training in. So maybe, yeah, it's again, there's so many options out there, but there's so many kind of nuances to it. And yeah, it's definitely, like I said, it's a can of worms. As soon as you think you solved one thing and one problem, everything kind of
Yeah.
opens up a whole new world of questions.
Another variable to throw into that mix is has it got gel pockets or not? Because I know that's a big selling point in
Ooh,
marathons. Like, can you put gels, pockets you can put gels
gels.
in? Because that's something it's pretty handy to have them there if you're not on one of those lucky people to have him who's elite who can just pick a bottle up off the side.
I think you need to take that to your brand and sell that idea. I think they would love that. That's not something we've come up with yet, actually, but yeah, there are some really interesting ones out there. A big thing is trying to fit in GPS trackers into bras and how we do that. That's a really big thing in terms of, especially for some elite athletes and kind of like footballers, match officials kind of stuff, and they've got to wear a GPS tracker. But how do they do that? It's fine. It's easy for the men to do it, but then women have the sports bra in the position of where that tracker is. And we've also seen some come through. I think it was for hiking, and so it's got like a little kind of clipper flap you can kind of put your t-shirt into. So you can, if you get hot, you can take your t-shirt into and kind of carry that in your sports bra if you need to. So there's some really kind of creative and innovative kind of things coming through and being tested on the market. So I think, gel pockets might be the next big thing. So you should kind of copyright that and get that down as that was
Maybe,
your idea
maybe.
first.
I guess one last thing. Sorry, I'm just thinking now after you were talking there. What's the influence on like core body temperature and that sort of thing? I mean, cooling as well. Is that something that you've looked at all? Have you got there's any research out there on influence on like different climates?
Yeah, so we at my research group we have looked at it in terms of we did some thermal imaging of women after they'd done, I want to say, 10 of either a 5K or a 10K march. So this was part of a PhD project from a colleague called Emily Paynes, and she worked with the British Army. So it was looking at kind of these women who are out there in an occupational setting wearing sports bra for up to 3 days at a time without taking it off. And then so looking at the thermal imaging of that after they've done one activity, and kind of I think we've done it where we've weighed it to see kind of the amount of sweat as well that's kind of absorbed by the material. And then at the University of Southampton, they've got a really cool research group there, which is like the skin lab. They do like skin sensing, and they've done some really great work with kind of sports bras and kind of sweating essentially in sports bras and that kind of area. So it is something that's starting to get looked at as well, and by the right people as well, which is really good.
Yeah. Just more and more variables to get the perfect sports bra, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pockets, cools well, supports,
Yeah.
comfortable, makes you feel good.
Yeah.
So can already see how it's a minefield.
I guess that was all from both of us. So yeah, thank you so much for your time, Nicola. It was really really enlightening. I guess maybe final question. Is there anywhere like people can get in touch? If they have questions or any good resources to sort of point people towards.
Yeah, so you can find us on LinkedIn and on Instagram. So our LinkedIn is just the research group in breast health. And our Instagram is UOP underscore RGBH. So feel free to drop us a message and follow us on them. That's kind of we update general things about going on in our group. We also have an email address. So if you go onto our website on the university, so if you just Google us, kind of University of Portsmouth Research Group in Breast Health, and click on our website, we have an email address that you can kind of get in contact with if you have any more direct questions. And I mentioned it earlier as well, kind of the free resource for education for within schools. It's called Treasure Your Chest, and you just put in treasureyourchest.org, and all the information is there on the website and how to access those resources.
We'll chuck all of that in our show notes as well, so yeah, people can find it. But yeah,
Oh, great.
thank you so much for your time, Nicola. We really really enjoyed that, and like Dan said, we've learned a lot. So yeah, hopefully listeners enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, I hope so too. It's been really good. You had some really good questions and a really great chat.
Thanks so
Thanks for your
much.
time, Nicola. Really appreciate it.